THQ's Destroy All Humans is a game that tries to deliver the GTA concept of a free-form world with a little more personality than your generic urban gang warfare themed game that we see these days. To do that, the team at Pandemic has created this campy 50s extraterrestrial invasion scenario where you, as a little bugger named Cryptosporidium, go down to Earth in search of your clone and DNA to make more clones for your race, the Furons, so that your empire can maintain its dominance in the galaxy. Now, there are a couple of unfortunate things about Destroy All Humans, specifically its storyline, and that's that the missions you do, while they're cool in concept, they don't necessarily play out very well. So one instance of a cool mission might be disguising yourself with your holographic holobob tool as a person and then following the president around, when in reality this just means that you walk around behind a car and hope to God you don't inadvertently stumble into an enemy character that can reveal your disguise and thus trigger an instant fail scenario. Now, a lot of these missions are plagued by these kinds of cool concept ideas, but somewhat sloppy delivery. For instance, in another mission, you might have to do something like bend all the TV antennas down to prevent a signal, or to create a signal that can mind control people. You know, it sounds neat, but in reality, this just means hop from point A to point B within a given time limit, and use your telekinetic powers on some random junk in the environment. So basically, the game plays out as this sort of up and down mesh of good ideas, but somewhat bad delivery. Now, this isn't to say that the actual gameplay isn't fun. In fact, Destroy All Humans offers quite a bit, the average gamer. You have a good variety of weapons that are interesting. You have your electrocuting ray that keeps their bodies intact to let you extract their brain matter. You have your disintegrator ray that's more effective at killing people, but it doesn't keep their bodies intact. You have your telekinetic powers that lets you toss people around, similar to PsyOps or Jedi Outcast Academy style games. You can pull all of these off really simply, and there's an abundant supply of ammo, and you always get refilled when you go back to your mothership, which acts as a sort of hub base. So the game constantly encourages players to really have fun with the environment, to blow up all the buildings that are around, and to kill as many people as you can, just because it's somewhat fun to do so. Even though they're similar in concept, Pandemic's own Mercenaries had an even more engaging type of combat, where that you actually felt like you were under pressure, whereas in Destroy All Humans you can simply run through most of anything without even shooting, so you never really get the sensation that you're pressed to participate in the combat, only that you have to do it to keep the guys away from you so that you can get back to bending your TV antennas or following the president. In addition to all of the on-foot combat, you can also use your alien flying saucer to level cities, but you can't, like GTA, just park the thing anywhere and move in and out freely. Instead, there are preset locations within each environment that let you park your saucer so that you can get out and get back into it. The UFO portion of the game is cool in that it exists, but like the on-foot portion, it's plagued by some somewhat uninspired gameplay elements. Now, you still have like a lot of cool weapons. You have the Death Ray, which sounds great, it's Death Ray. You got the Sonic Boom, which levels buildings. You have the green blob cannon, I forget its name, but it's basically more powerful Sonic Boom. And then you have this sort of tractor beam, which doubles as your telekinetic power. It lets you pick things up and throw them around, complete with like physics. Unfortunately, you can't use your tractor beam in conjunction with your other weapons. It sort of acts as a weapon on itself, and because it's not nearly as effective as a Sonic Boom or the disintegrator green thing of death, you don't really find yourself using it. So you're never really in a position where you're like, oh, it's cool if I could pick up this tank with my tractor beam, then shoot at these guys, then throw the tank. You have to switch between them, and so the coolest part of flying the UFO goes mainly unused because it's not as effective as the other parts. The UFO shooting part is played out from a top-down perspective, and this definitely works from a gameplay standpoint, but there are a few problems with it. Mainly you get shot off screen a bunch, and the game's still plagued by some pretty serious drawing issues. So even though your view is limited to a specific angle, like a very short angle in front of you, things still manage to pop up, and it makes it kind of a pain in the ass to like start shooting at people and flying around buildings when the 1 second they'll be there and the next they'll just disappear, or vice versa. Now, even though Destroy All Humans may feature this somewhat underdeveloped on-foot action, along with an equally sometimes spotty UFO, the combination of the two makes for a pretty exciting game, especially when you take into account the personality that's there. Aside from the story missions, there's really not a whole lot of reason to play Destroy All Humans, unfortunately. There's no multiplayer mode, and all of the extra missions added on top of the story follow the very generic race to here in a certain time, or kill X amount of cows in a certain time, or kill X amount of people in a certain time, types of gameplay mechanics that you see implemented in just about every freeform game. You know, it's analogous with collecting all the stupid red orbs in Jacket, you know. The personality-driven storyline missions are fun enough to play through just to see what your character does next. And again, while you're not going to be laughing out loud in total hysteria at all times, you'll at least be smiling and smirking from start to finish, assuming you can get back past a somewhat frustrating two-tiered final boss, which kicked my ass a few times before I finally laid it to him. If you're looking for a competent action game with a bit of humor and some style, you'll definitely want to check out Destroy All Humans. But don't expect something that's really revolutionary or steps above Spider-Man 2, GTA, True Crime, or any other number of free-roaming third-person action games. It features the same generic concepts, but with a little extra spice of humor. That being said, there are still some components of the game that you'll take issue with as an avid casual or hardcore gamer. You probably won't like the hollow bobbing, you'll probably like blowing up buildings a lot, but then you'll recognize that it could have all been tied together with a little bit more finesse.